and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and today I asked 100 FPL experts what their plans were for Game Week 2. Yes, this is our 100 Experts series, the videos where every week we look at the transfer trends, the chip strategies, and the captaincy decisions among top FPL managers. Hopefully we can learn a lot of things this game week and in all future game weeks, and if you do enjoy this one, want to see more, drop a like, do subscribe, and we'll be doing this every single week. Okay, so first of all, here are our 100 experts. All of these managers, top FPL managers with good finishes in the past, really know their stuff. And I feel like with the combined strength of all 100 of them, we are going to find out exactly what the best moves are this game week. So make sure if you see these guys around, drop them a follow, see what they're up to. They are very, very good FPL managers. So as an overview, 28% of them are making one transfer for Game Week 2. 1% is making two transfers, so just one person making more than one transfer. That's quite crazy. Nobody is making more than three transfers. No one's using a chip, and 71% are not making a transfer at all. They are rolling their transfer, they are banking their transfer, whatever you want to call it. They're not using a transfer. So this really does seem like a week among top FPL managers where there is no real strong need to make a transfer. If you don't want to make a transfer, if you are relatively happy with your team, maybe you can afford to roll it. Hopefully you guys set your team up for more than just one game week. So hopefully your game week 1 team is still pretty strong for game week 2. Don't feel like you need to make a transfer if you don't want to. But there are specific circumstances where our experts were making transfers, and we will go through that in just a couple of minutes. Before we go any further, what I'd like to do at the beginning of these videos is just have a look at the most popular Game Week 2 transfers around the whole world. So this is all FPL managers in the world. Who are the most popular moves right now? And we can see Isaac way out in front. Chilwell is here as well. Saka up the top there as well. And then we kind of tinker down to a lot of other players that pretty much scored high points in Game Week 1. So that's kind of the obvious trends we see at the beginning of the season. A lot of the more casual FPL managers will just pick whoever scored the most points last game week and they'll bring them into their team. And what we're trying to figure out in these videos is whether the trends of the experts agree with this, or if they're actually trying to go a slightly different route. And if so, can we get an edge using the expert advice over the overall FPL player base who are picking maybe not the best players, but the experts probably know best, particularly if they're all agreeing. So, any of these players do you think are popular among our experts? Do you think any of our experts are bringing in any of these players for Game Week 2? Well, let's have a look. Chilwell, Maddison, and Reece James. These three players are the only three of this list of players where our experts have significant interest in bringing them in using a transfer for Game Week 2. Now, obviously, players like Saka, Estupinian, Saliba, maybe João Pedro to a degree. A lot of our experts will own those players anyway. You might have seen that in the last experts video we did ahead of Game Week 1. So we are kind of counting those players a little bit, but in terms of new transfers in for Game Week 2, it does seem to be all about Chilwell, Maddison, and Reece James. So congratulations if you already had those players in your team, but those are the popular players among our experts. But there are a lot of players on this list where our experts are completely ignoring a lot of these players not being brought in by any, and actually some of these players are actually being sold by our experts. So the transfer trends really do not seem to be going well in the overall player base, and I feel like we can get an edge here. So Isaac, Rodrigo, Saliba, João Pedro, Ake, and Disasi, none of these players are being brought in by our experts. None of our experts are interested in transferring in any of these players. And actually, some of these players are also being sold. Saliba, in particular, is a player being sold by our experts. So we have got a very, very clear indication here. Players like Isaac, Rodrigo, we're not expecting them to score too well in Game Week 2. Isaac against Man City, Rodrigo playing for Man City in a defensive midfield role. So therefore, our experts not really too interested in those players. Some of these other players are, are just not too interesting anyway. Ake rotation risk, Disasi, he's a fine pick for 5 million, but you may as well pick Colwell at 4.5 or Chilwell or James at 5.5. So there's just no real reason for our experts to go for a player like him just because he scored well in Game Week 1 doesn't necessarily mean they're going to score well in Game Week 2. So let's keep going. Let's see what our experts are doing. So first of all, the popular transfers out, I do think it's important to note which players are worth taking out and which players you may as well keep. And among our experts, it does seem that Gabriel is the most popular transfer out. Now, considering I would say at least 50% of our experts would have had a Gabriel in their Game Week 1 team, a lot of people missed that last minute Saliba, or Gabriel to Saliba swap. A lot of people missed that out because it was so close to deadline. So therefore, Even though it looks like Gabriel is the most popular transfer out, still only 8 out of our 100 experts, are transferring Gabriel out. 8 out of the 29 managers making transfers are removing Gabriel. So yeah, it seems like a lot, and it definitely is an option to remove him, but I don't think it is something that you have to do. It is kind of up to you what you want to do, but Gabriel, among our experts, he is still the most popular transfer out, so there's definitely an option for you to do that. De Bruyne, a few of our experts did have him. Unfortunately, he is going to be injured long term, so he's got to go. 4 transfers out for him. Urian Timber, unfortunately, it looks like his season could be over, so 4 transfers out for him as well. And aside from that, we've got a couple of Fodens, a couple of Shaws, a couple of Stones, and a couple of Trossards being removed as well. But maybe at 2 transfers out of our 100 experts, that's not really too much of a strong trend. So I would take that with a pinch of salt. If you want to remove these kind of players, then you absolutely can. That's going to be kind of up to you, but they're certainly not priority transfers. The priority transfer out this week seems to be Gabriel, De Bruyne, and Timber. Those 3 players are your kind of sells of the week, according to our experts. And we should be replacing them with Chilwell, or at least we should be replacing the defenders with Chilwell, if at all possible. If you've got the money in the bank, Ben Chilwell seems to be the primary target among our FPL experts this week, followed by James Maddison, followed by James. So yeah, Reece James 3rd in there as well. I know a lot of people have Chilwell already. If you do have Chilwell, you kind of want an alternative to him. You still want to bring in another Chelsea defender, then Reece James is definitely a good pick as well. So it seems like it's just kind of defenders and midfielders are the popular transfers in this week. Forwards, not really too much point in making a transfer this week. If you've got Watkins, stick. If you've got Pedro, stick. If you've got, Nicholas Jackson, stick. So midfielders and defenders seem to be the place to make those moves. Chilwell, James, Henry seem to be the primary defensive target, and Maddison, Mbumo, and Diaby with 2 transfers in, maybe they are your midfield targets. So let's suggest some transfers based on that information. So first of all, you want to get Chilwell in. If you haven't got him already, Chilwell is your priority transfer in. So whether you've got Gabriel, Timber, or Luke Shaw, I would say these 3 players will be the most popular players to remove for Chilwell. So yeah, get rid of these players, bring in Chilwell if you haven't got him already. If you've already got Chilwell, you could maybe go for Reece James instead as an alternative, or if you can't quite afford Chilwell, Reece James is there as an alternative as well. But yeah, I would be less bullish about the Reece James transfer. It does seem like Chilwell is the priority. You can afford to maybe go 1 more week without Reece James. Maybe reassess that in game week 3, but he's still a very good transfer to go for if you've got the likes of Gabriel, Timber, maybe Luke Shaw that you were disappointed in game week 1, worried about the Spurs fixture in game week 2. You could maybe consider removing Shaw for a Chilwell or a James as well. A little bit easier as Shaw is at that 5.5. Of course, John Stones is another option to move to these defenders, but I would be less keen on that one personally, and we don't have too much of a trend to suggest that would be a good move either, according to our experts. If you can't quite afford a Reece James or a Ben Chilwell, then a Rico Henry is your guy. So if you've got a Gabriel, you've got a Timber, you've got a 5 million type of defender, you want to remove them, you don't have any money in the bank, it seems like Rico Henry is the #1 choice to replace them. So Rico Henry is kind of your backup, 4.5, a nice little defender to go for there. Save yourself a little bit of money for those of you guys in a little bit of a tighter financial situation in FPL. Of course, if you're removing De Bruyne, Maddison is the clear favourite, but Mbumo is there and thereabouts as well. So a lot of people may struggle to get Maddison and Mbumo in this game week, won't be too keen to make the transfer. So if you are one of those unfortunate people who did have De Bruyne in game week 1, maybe you could turn this disadvantage into an advantage because a slot just freed up in your squad to bring in these 2 top FPL assets, and a lot of other people aren't going to have that opportunity. So the experts recommend Maddison and Mbumo for your De Bruyne replacements. But we do still need to have a look at captaincy. What do you think the captain split is going to be this game week? Erling Haaland on top, maybe Mo Salah? Anyone else? Let's see. Well, who else could it be? Game week 2 captain picks. According to our experts, we have got a 69% rate on Erling Haaland, so he is still going to be the most popular captain pick for game week 2 by quite a significant margin. But it's nowhere near the 90% as we saw in game week 1 and for a lot of last season. So this is not a stonewall. You must captain Erling Haaland. If you have Mo Salah in your team, then we've got 25% captaining him. Obviously, a lot of our experts did have Salah for game week 1. No one's bringing him in for game week 2. So if you already have Salah, then you've got him ready to go. Let's maybe think about captaining him. But there were a few people who own both who actually are just still deciding to captain Erling Haaland, but if you have Salah, you want to go a little bit different this week. You want to try and get an edge somehow, and it's all about edges at this stage of the season to increase or decrease your rank. Salah could be the play against Bournemouth, but we do have an interesting shout on Ollie Watkins. 2% of our experts actually going for Watkins, so a real outside shout. Only 2, which is not really a very strong trend, but if you kind of fancy that, Watkins against Everton, he showed some promise in game week 1. Let's see if that works out, but it's certainly a really risky play, particularly when we compare him to the likes of Erling Haaland, Salah, really tried and trusted players. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that this does not quite add up to 100%. That's because we got a couple of 1%ers that I didn't want to throw on screen because I don't think they're worth the screen time. But just to let you know, our 1%ers this game week, our super differential captains among our experts, we've got 4 of them, and they are Darwin Nunez, Nicholas Jackson, Marcus Rashford, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So 1% going for each of those 4, but it really does seem to be the Erling Haaland and the Mohamed Salah show in FPL, as it pretty much is every single season. So that's going to be the end of our 100 experts roundup for this game week. Hopefully you learned a few things and kind of got an idea of where the top FPL managers are going to be going this week, and maybe you agree with them, and maybe you can kind of take some inspiration from these kind of moves. But it does seem like the game week to maybe not make a transfer. Just roll that transfer unless you do have a problem like an injury or a rotation risk player in your team. If you did enjoy this one, please do drop a like, and we will be dropping this video once every week so you can follow along with the expert trends. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see that, and don't forget, we still got 50% off Fantasy Football Hub right now, all the way until the end of August. So if you haven't got your Fantasy Football Hub subscription and you want to get access to all of their amazingly powerful tools used by our experts, then please have a look at the link in the description and you can go check that out. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Team selection video coming up tomorrow. Aside from that, I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.